we're taught this myth, I think, about innovation being this cool thing that we should be doing. And then we feel weird when we actually come into a situation where we have to be innovative and it doesn't feel cool or comfortable. And then what happens is find yourself in a situation where there's something you want to do and there's no YouTube video, there's no expert. You've reached the level of human knowledge. So humans have done a lot of stuff, but we haven't done this one thing that you want to do. Okay. So now you have to be innovative. Now you have to invent stuff. And that's really difficult, demoralizing. It's scary. And you'll start to question yourself because you'll sit there and say, well, gosh, every other time in my life where I felt this way, I probably should have quit.
Jim McKelvey is an American billionaire businessman who in 2009 co-founded Square, now Block Inc., with Jack Dorsey.
Huge company came into the space and tried to essentially rip off exactly what you were doing. The company that I'm talking about is Amazon, and they came out with something called Amazon Register.
Oh, yeah.
How was Square able to beat Amazon?
Jim has been featured in numerous media outlets, from Forbes to TEDx.
They asked me to stand on the dot.
Is a director of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis and is the author of The Innovation Stack.
So this is actually the reason I wrote the book. A year after.
So the story was, I started writing it because Herb Kelleher, who was one of the guys I interviewed, basically said to me, how are you going to share this information with the world? Like, I was not intending to write a book. I met with Herb. He got very excited about some of the stuff that I'd seen. And he said, you need to share this. And I thought, well, I don't want to do a boring business book because they suck. And so I decided to do a graphic novel, which I thought would be more fun. Worked on it for over a year. And then when I got to Herb's chapter, I called him up and said, hey, Herb, I'm going to do this thing as a graphic novel. And he didn't like that idea at all. He said, look, if you're going to do that, just leave me out. And I wasn't going to leave Herb out of the book. So I redid it as this. But I saved chapter 9 for you as in its graphic novel format. So this is actually what the book originally looked like. It was all like, oh, this is a burning city.
Oh my!
There's a murder. This protective instinct that's wired into you that says, oh, if I'm doing what everybody else is doing. And as soon as you start doing something that nobody else is doing, all the people who love you are going to say, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Like, well, and they'll start pulling you back. Oh, don't do that. You got a good job at a law firm,
right.
You know, or don't move out there. You know, they'll pull you back, not because they're jealous of you or anything,
right.
because they love you, because they want to protect you. You know, and those are the people you put the most weight probably on those people's opinions, and they're all saying, come back, don't. You're encountering nothing but failure. Like, it's failed. It fails again. Because if it's succeeding, you don't work on it. But it's failure after failure. And this continues until you quit. And my book, if you read it, it's not going to give you any tricks, but what will happen, I hope.
Today's guest is Jim McKelvey, entrepreneur, investor, and co-author of Block Inc., alongside with Jack Dorsey. What started with a simple problem, not being able to accept a credit card payment, turned into a company that reshaped how millions of businesses get paid. Jim is also a prolific creator and author of The Innovation Stack, where he explores how truly disruptive companies solve problems in ways no one else can. In this conversation, we talk about entrepreneurship, innovation, and how to build something truly meaningful when the odds and the numbers are stacked against you. But before we begin, I want to remind you as you watch or listen to this, please bear in mind that The Bigger Why is an independent podcast in which I explore topics that are meaningful to me in my own personal capacity. The Bigger Why is not sponsored by or affiliated with any company or other outside interests. Please also bear in mind that these discussions are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They're absolutely not legal, financial, or investment advice. I would recommend that you consult with your own advisors and do your own independent research and arrive at conclusions on any topics discussed today. After all, helping you shape your worldview is kind of what this show is all about anyway. So stay in the driver's seat at all times, and thank you so much for listening. I don't take your attention for granted.
All right, well, we're rolling. We are rolling.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank
Sure.
you very much for joining me, coming in. Full disclosure, this is my first podcast interview.
Really?
Yeah. First time, so this thing can be an absolute epic disaster. And I will 100% blame it on you.
Mm-hmm.
But you like operating outside of the city walls, so.
Yeah, I'm a risk taker.
Outside of the city walls. So I read your book.
You actually read it. I can tell because it's beat up.
Yes, I read it. I'm still one of the last few people that still like to actually read.
I like real books. Yeah.
There's something, I'm a visual learner, so there's something about seeing the words on the page, thinking about it, getting lost in it that I think is very different than listening to audiobooks, which I do from time to time.
Yeah. So I brought you a present, but this was not originally supposed to be a book. It was supposed to be a graphic novel.
Was it really?
Did you?
I think I remember hearing. I remember if I read that.
Yeah.
Or...
So the story was, I started writing it because Herb Kelleher, who was one of the guys I interviewed,
right,
basically said to me, "How are you going to share this information with the world?" Like I was not intending to write a book. I met with Herb. He got very excited about some of the stuff that I'd seen, and he said, "You need to share this." And I thought, well, I don't want to do a boring business book because they suck. And so I decided to do a graphic novel, which I thought would be more fun. Worked on it for over a year. And then when I got to Herb's chapter, I called him up and said, "Hey, Herb, I'm going to do this thing as a graphic novel." And he didn't like that idea at all. He said, "Look, if you're going to do that, just leave me out." And I wasn't going to leave Herb out of the book. So I redid it as this. But I saved chapter 9 for you as in its graphic novel format. So this is actually what the book originally looked like. It was all like, oh, this is a burning city.
Oh my God.
There's a murder.
This is unbelievable.
No, like the guy gets shot, and
this is absolutely unbelievable. So why don't you now?
It would be disrespectful. Herb. So okay. Herb was right. So first of all, Herb died. Like my plan was to. And by the way, this is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. That is amazing.
My plan was to.
Yeah.
Well, he was long dead, so I figured he wouldn't get too upset. Plus, the guy's just a total badass and just seems like a hero for a comic book. But Herb was right in probably the most fundamental way, which is if you think about the protagonist of this, right? A comic book. I mean, these are heroes. Like, I mean, here's the guy. Like, he's wearing a cape. Now, that happened to be the fashion of the 1800s. Guys wore capes, right? But, like if you think about who's the center character, it's always somebody who's got superpowers. At the very least, they got, irradiated in a positive way, and they can run fast or jump high, or at least they're rich, like Batman. Like Batman's super rich.
Right. You have cool toys.
Yeah. So the story of the innovation stack, like all of my heroes are just very normal people who ended up in these weird positions. And then because they had to respond, develop these things that made them super powerful, but it's not a superhero story. So if I told it in the graphic novel format, I think I would have lost a lot of the people who've related to the book, which is this idea that, look, everybody is pretty much the same when we're doing innovation. Like there is nobody who's built for it better. I mean, there's some traits you can develop, but it's not like you need to be irradiated magically to be an innovator. It's sort of a last resort that humans are wired with, but we don't typically do.
And so it's not that someone possesses these unique skills and they're just kind of going through it. It's more that as you go through it, you have to adapt and figure out challenges as you go.
The way I liken innovation is it's a survival instinct. It's this thing that I like I'm not a very good fighter. I've never been very good in a street fight. But if you come at me, I'll defend myself. Like any human would defend themselves.
You would think.
I think, you're not going to lie passively. I certainly wouldn't. But the problem with innovation, one of the problems with innovation is that we're taught that it's this cool thing we should be doing all the time. Oh, you need to be more innovative.
Right.
Right. Like, Sam, what are you doing that's innovative this week? Right. And most of the time your answer should be not a goddamn thing. Like, I don't do anything innovative. Like, I don't want this building to be innovative. I want it to be like all the other buildings behind us, built with, steel and concrete and wood and whatever the heck keeps buildings standing. I don't want some guy to go, hey, let's build a building out of straw.
Right.
Like I think we can engineer straw and go up 40 stories. Like, you just don't want that. I don't want innovative food. I want good tasting food, but that's been invented before. Don't sit there and feed me some plant that no human has ever ingested. So we're taught this myth, I think, about innovation being this cool thing that we should be doing. And then we feel weird when we actually come into a situation where we have to be innovative and it doesn't feel cool or comfortable. And then what happens is, you find yourself in a situation where there's something you want to do and there's no YouTube video, there's no expert. You've reached the level of human knowledge. So humans have done a lot of stuff, but we haven't done this one thing that you want to do. Okay, you want to build, something that hasn't been built. Great. So now you have to be innovative. Now you have to invent stuff. And that's really difficult, demoralizing. It's scary. And you'll start to question yourself because you'll sit there and say, well, gosh, every other time in my life where I felt this way, I probably should have quit.
Right.
Like the time you decided, well, I can climb that building even though I've never climbed anything, and you climb up as a kid and you fall off, you break your neck, break your leg or something. You've probably experienced some times in your life when you haven't been qualified and you've been penalized. Well, the problem with that is that fear response, when it kicks in and you're doing something innovative, is what makes most people quit. So most people, the saddest story about this book, was this dude I was talking to. Actually, I can probably see his house. Well, he's in one of those really, really fancy buildings. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a really fancy building up there. And he's got a really fancy apartment. And
he's waving to us.
Yeah, and I probably know what he's waving. But like what this guy has on his wall, so I'm an artist and I kind of know what stuff costs. He's got one painting on his wall in his living room that's worth more than everything else I own on the planet.
Oh, geez.
Like, take everything that I own, sell it at full retail, and the proceeds for that would not equal this one painting that he has.
What is the painting?
Oh, yeah, it's a particular Rothko. Okay. Like, wow. But it's like this. I was like, oh my God. Wow. And I was like, I was blown away. I saw the painting. I was like, oh my God. But I'm talking to him about my book because he was one of the early reviewers of my book, a very successful guy. And he said, Jim, I wish I'd had your book 20 years ago. He said, I was starting a company and we were doing exactly what you described, and it got so hard that we quit. If I'd known that it was supposed to be this hard, we would have continued and I would be even more successful. I mean, like, don't feel sorry for this guy.
No, but that's a good question because, firstly, number one, it sounds like almost the rational thing to do is to quit. Mm-hmm. Like you have to be almost this crazy person to quit. And when I say crazy, it's not really, I don't think it's crazy. I think there's something other than the financial success, or you're not doing it because you need to put food on the table, most likely.
Generally not. Most of those people will quit before they get to the solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
But meaning there's some other driver, whatever that driver is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an itch that I have to do this, or maybe it's like, if I don't do this, I'll always regret it, or,
There's something that drives each of us in ways that we do not control. So I liken it to, you don't have any control about who you're attracted to.
Right.
Right? That's one of the things. Yeah, like, oh, you should like this person. Sorry. No, I remember once I was in a situation where this guy was telling me I should be attracted to somebody else. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not. He's like, but look, this person's gorgeous. And I was like, yeah,
Seems like it's for you.
I mean, I think German Shepherds are really attractive dogs. And, but I don't have control over that. Like, It's not this choice that we have. Like, there's certain problems. I believe that, at least, speaking personally, there's some things I care about, some things I don't. And I know there's some stuff that I probably should care about that I don't. But the stuff that I care about, if I work in that world, then I get this motivation that is really compelling. And it's really personal. And I just, the things that I guess these happened to me when I was a little kid, or maybe they're in my DNA. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know where the motivation comes from, but that's where I see most of the entrepreneurs who are successful pull their power. It's not because they need to get rich.
Right.
So I'm working harder than I've ever worked right now, and I'm probably wealthier than I've ever been now. So
And what keeps you motivated? What
I'm
keeps you
pissed off.
hungry?
I just
You're
stuff. No, it's not real. It's not pure anger, but it's like I see this problem and I think, well, somebody ought to fix that. And then I think, well, wait a second, you got some time. Why don't you fix it?
Right.
And then I ask myself the question, well, if not for me, who's going to try this? And the fortunate thing about my situation now is that, I can fail big and not, like put my family out on the street.
Right.
So I get to take big shots.
But like the superhero point, it's almost like you have more responsibility now, because I think a lot of people see things that can be more efficient or things in the world that they want to change, but they say, I don't have the resources to change them, I don't have the time to change them, someone else is going to change them, why is it on me to change them? And so like people kind of let themselves off the hook, even though they might have good ideas, but thinking that it's not really for me to do it, versus if you have the resources to do it, you have the time to do it, it's like hard to excuse yourself for not doing it.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of great innovation from people with tremendous resources. Like I've seen a lot from people who have scarcity. So there is this excuse that I've seen a lot, which is like, well, I do that if,
Right.
I do that if I was rich. I do that if I had the time. I do that if, these things. And, most of the organizations I've started that have been super successful, and Square included, like Jack and I just self-funded the thing.
Right.
Now, we eventually took money from some investors, but, it wasn't like, oh, thank God you got these two rich guys bankrolling this thing.
Right.
We were fine, but we weren't super wealthy. But it was a problem that I cared about. Like I was pissed off because I was a guy I'm an artist. I make, glass. I lost a sale. I was angry because I lost the sale. She wanted to buy this thing. She wanted to give me an American Express card. I couldn't take it, and then bothered me. And then I was angry about losing that sale for days after. I was like, God, I needed that money,
You made the thing, somebody wanted the thing, they're there, let's get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I had it like on the finish line and I couldn't take an Amex card. So these are the things that I hear a lot of excuses. And one of them is, I don't have the resources to do this. And like maybe if you're starting a space exploration company or something that's like insane, that would be.
Probably need a few bucks.
Yeah, you need some money. But for most of the problems that we need to address, the tools are available, and commonly so.
And increasingly so.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like even audio equipment and like doing a podcast like this is super easy to set up.
There's nobody else in this room.
Yeah, literally.
That's
literally all self.
As far as I can tell, Sam, you have no friends.
No,
Like,
by the way, it's the truth.
Like, I can see no evidence of any human else. But you're doing great. I mean, you got a 2-camera setup. You got decent lights.
There we go.
I mean, that power looks like it's going to fall off. And
Shh, don't spill the secrets.
but I mean, like the point is, here's an example. You're sitting an example of empowerment. You want to put out content, you can do it. You don't need anybody's permission.
You need nothing.
Yeah.
You need nothing. So in reading your book, I think I did find it was pretty emotionally driven is really what stood out to me a lot. Meaning, obviously, there were very much, this tremendous great advice and like a playbook that you can ascribe to, and understanding, hey, when you're outside the walls, you kind of have to really expect it to be an adventure. But I like the fact that there was really passion behind it in terms of what the motivation was, that it was very clear that you were like upset, which, as you mentioned now, not just on the losing of the sale, but also on behalf of your friend Bob, who lost thousands of sales.
Yeah.
And anyone else out there who didn't have access to capital, because maybe they didn't fit the mold, or maybe they made some poor choices earlier in their life. So can you sort of speak about, number one, like why is it that access to capital is so important, and also how is it that how is it that having a driver that's tied up in something you feel passionate about, like how does that sort of make a difference, which I think, to me, when I read your book, really is what was able to help you withstand some of the more difficult things that you went through.
I mean, feelings are way more powerful than thoughts, right? You feel something and you act. You think something and you can just kind of think about it. But if you're feeling it, that's what, and that's why I ended up rewriting this book 8 times. Because, you know, the first time I got it, it was factually correct. I had all the same data. But by the 6th or 7th rewrite, I started to capture the emotional side, which was really hard for me because, you know, I'm a scientist, economist, I'm a numbers guy, you know, so capturing that and really being, you know, sort of brutally honest about what motivated me, because that's the only data point that I can really speak honestly to. And then the data that I got in front of the people in the interviews, like with Herb and guys, I wanted to capture that. So I wanted people, when they read the book, to feel something.
Yeah.
You know, so I talk about my mom's suicide. I talk about, well, what happened in, you know, I mean, you know, there's a murder in this book. Like there's a murder, you know, a little kid watches his dad get shot, right? You know, these are things, and these are not made up stories. These really happened. I don't know how to express that except to share it. But the reason to share it is so that somebody going through it can tap into that power source, because that's probably what's going to get you through. Because look, if you believe that the problem you're trying to solve is going to make you rich, well, let's talk about being rich for a second. Like, you're probably sleeping indoors. You probably have air conditioning. You know, clothing's cheap these days. Like, you're probably not, the difference between you at your current level and you as rich as the richest guy in the world, the delta's not that big.
Right.
You know, who cares? It's not that much different. You know, oh, you're flying in the back of a plane and he's flying on a private plane. You're still flying. There's not that much difference. So these are weak motivators. And my whole purpose of writing this thing, and the reason that Herb asked me to write the book, I think, was so that we don't have so many people give up. Like, the heartbreak was with that guy who, you know, had the Rothko.
Right.
He quit. Like, he had a job. He had a product that might have made the world way better, and we never get to see it. Like, we don't have that thing.
And even though he's well off, he still has this pang of regret.
Yeah, he knows he quit. He was like, I was there. I could have done it. He was like, I was on the path. You described it perfectly. And the funny thing was, you know, this happened 20 years before he read the book.
That's
you know, and it's a pattern. And this is the thing that I recognize this pattern. I saw it repeated, and I was like, oh my God. So how do we get people to not quit? And the answer is, you know, I'll save you 300 pages of reading. Like, what will happen almost certainly if you start doing something significant? Like, I'm not talking derivative bullshit or, you know, copying somebody else's stuff. Copying's great. Copy everything you can. But like, you start doing something significant that has not been done before, your fear response is going to kick in hard, because you're designed as a human to want to be with everybody else. You want to be, we're herd animals. We all, I mean, I'm kind of glad you're dressed like me. We're both wearing jeans. We're both wearing t-shirts. We're both wearing I mean, I should roll up my sleeves, but you know, like, but there's basically this protective instinct that's wired into you that says, oh, if I'm doing what everybody else is doing, I'm fine. And as soon as you start doing something that nobody else is doing, all the people who love you are going to say, Sam, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, where are you going?
100%.
Like, what? And they'll start pulling you back. Oh, don't do that. You got a good job at a law firm.
Right.
You know, or don't, you know, don't move out there. You know, they'll pull you back, not because they're jealous of you or anything, because they love you, because they want to protect you, you know? And those are the people you put the most weight probably on those people's opinions. And they're all saying, come back, don't. And then as you go in and work on your problems, you're encountering nothing but failure. Like, it fails. It fails again. Because if it's succeeding, you don't work on it. But it's failure after failure. And this continues until you quit. And my book, if you read it, it's not going to give you any tricks, but what will happen, I hope, is you'll recognize what's happening. You'll go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to feel like this. I didn't expect this to be pleasant or comfortable or easy or predictable. You know, like all these things, I didn't expect to feel cool. Like if you expect to feel cool as an innovator,
Right.
whoa, you are not. I mean, at least I've never done it. Like I always feel like an idiot. I mean, I just horrible. But I know that that is a temporary thing that is part of the process. And because I recognize that, I don't quit as often. I don't quit as quickly as I used to. And I hope that others won't either.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of it is. I heard this thing from like DHH, who was on Lex Friedman recently, and he was like, there has to be this like homeostasis. So if you're trying to do something that's going to have a big impact, you're going to get sort of an opposite reaction of equal proportion. So if you're doing something small, it doesn't really have a lot of impact, doesn't really have a lot of change.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make a big ripple effect in the pool. You're not going to encounter that much resistance, but at the same time, you know, it's not going to be all that meaningful. Versus if you're trying to do something really important, a lot of people are stuck in the status quo and are incentivized to keep things as they are in the status quo. And so you're now a challenger. And if you're a challenger, the existing people in power, so to speak, or the people who currently are the dominating players will try to kind of stifle that.
Yeah, and they don't have to do that actively. Like it's not a conspiracy theorist. It's not like all the people get together and say, we will not allow this to exist.
Right.
It's just the sheer momentum of millions and millions of people and systems that those people use supporting an old way of doing something, and you've got a new way. And none of that support of none of that
not proven.
It's not proven. It's not known. There are no words for it, you know. And so I use the example in the book, which is sort of a bad example now because it's 20 years old. But, you know, do you remember your first Uber ride? Your very first one?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, you got into some dude's car.
Pretty weird.
And you'd never gotten into a stranger's car before. That was absolutely forbidden when you were kids. Like, you don't ride in a car with a stranger. And here's this guy pulls up. And I remember I didn't know if I was supposed to get in the front seat or the back seat.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Right? Because it's like,
you don't want to insult him, but like,
well, yeah. Like, is this my friend? Because if it's my friend,
right,
I get in the front seat.
Right.
If it's a cab, I get in the back seat, but it's neither. It's this thing that I don't know. Yeah, so I was weird. And so I sat in the front seat and that was awkward. And then like, but these are the things that you just, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think a lot of stuff that happens that looks like conspiracy is just inertia.
Mm. So it's almost like survival of the fittest working its magic in the like economic sphere, where it's like this Darwinian effect of you're going to encounter these natural resistances, and the sort of the best ideas are the people who can navigate it best or create the biggest stack, right? Because if you have a much bigger innovation stack and it has a lot more variables embedded in that, it's going to be pretty hard to challenge that versus something that it doesn't have as many.
Well, so now you're talking about the durability of an innovation stack in competition. So that's sort of the second stage. So stage one is you find a problem, you start building a solution. That solution is going to result in this thing, which I call an innovation stack. It's just all the things you have to do to solve the problem. You might have to do 5, you might have to do 50. You know, you don't know how many, and you don't even know if the problem is solvable. So you don't know. It's not like there's a roadmap in the beginning. You say, well, I'll do 10 these 10 things and it'll work. I mean, we certainly started Square with a pretty naive assumption of how easy it would be to build a credit card reader. And then a year and a half later, we finally got the thing legal and released.
Like so, even illegal when you're starting it. So like
it was illegal when we started. Well,
had you known, you probably, I mean, you may have not even gone down the path of doing it.
In the first week, I found 17 rules or laws that we were violating with our demo product.
This was the first week.
First week of company of running the company. Oh my God. Yeah, it was the first week, and I stopped counting at 17. I don't know what the actual number is, but like at 17, I was like, screw it, you know. But it was like OFAC, KYC, the card member or the card networks, the way we were handling banking, like the companies we had, the internal controls that we had, just like all this stuff like you had to do, and we weren't doing it. our product worked in the sense that it would take money off your credit card and put it in my bank account.
It made sense.
It worked, but it didn't comply, and getting compliant took us a long time, and we were significantly underestimating how difficult things were, which is typical. You underestimate how difficult things are. But anyway, you build this stack, you build this thing, back to your original question, and then you've got this thing that nobody else in the world has. And the question is, well, are they all going to copy you?
Yes.
Like, are they going to do it?
Oh, yeah. Now I'll just do the same
we'll
thing.
just do the same thing. And that's actually the motivation for the book, was that Amazon copied Square when we were a startup. And when Amazon copies you as a startup, you die. Like, that's just I'm sorry about this.
No worries.
There are no counterexamples of that. When we were, let's see, I'm sorry about this. It's turned off.
It's part of the fun.
Yeah. Oh, my wife says, wow, amazing. Thank you so much. He's exactly who I want to talk with. This is you. So what you don't understand is that I'm not doing this for free. Sam's going to help my wife with a project that she's on where he's an expert and I don't know anything. So all those texts were relevant, and I'm sorry to interrupt your podcast.
No, that's
all right.
great. That's
but
great.
No, here's the point. You think, oh, everybody's going to copy me. And the worst thing that can happen to you as a startup is Amazon says, oh, we're just going to copy your business, steal your business. And what they do is they add the Amazon brand name, undercut your price by 30% always. And then they just watch you die, right? Because they're Amazon and you're not. And they've got a giant name, and they've got a listening device in everybody's home. They
have the resources.
Yeah, I mean, they will just cut your body into small UPSable parts and shove them in smiling boxes.
And that's where you were.
Yeah, and so we were fully expecting to just be dead. And amazingly, it didn't work. Like, Amazon gave up after a year of competing with us. And they mailed one of these little Square readers to all their
I love that.
customers.
I love that.
Yeah, well, I loved it too.
No.
Like,
I love that it was like, here you go. Like, we built this customer base. Like, it's all yours. Like,
yeah, Amazon, they were amazingly cool in the way they quit.
No, that's
like,
so
it was vicious competing with them, but the way they did it was, it was sort of
gracious.
like honor, like that old sort of honor thing.
A fight, it was like so.
Yeah, there was some respect between adversaries or something. I don't know what it was, but they were super cool because they gave us all their customers. But that wasn't supposed to go down like that. We were just supposed to die. And the reason we didn't die was nagging at me, because I was like, well, were we just really lucky? And if so, how were we lucky? So I spent a couple of years literally researching, looking into that and looking for patterns and looking for other companies that had been through similar circumstances. And then I saw this pattern, and then the book came, and then I had to interview Herb Kelleher. And that became this path. But the question is, okay, if somebody like Amazon or whomever wants to now copy what you have built through an innovation stack, how easy is it? And the answer is, it's very, very hard for companies that don't build the innovation themselves to copy their way to a working product. And I give very good explanations. As a matter of fact, I predicted in the book what happened to Southwest Airlines, because the book was 2019 and Southwest was at this inflection point. And I basically called it, and I said, what Southwest is doing right now is going to lead to their demise.
Right.
And if you look what's happened to Southwest, I mean, they're still in business, but they're not the Southwest of old. And they've got competition. Now they're copying United. I mean, it's just a disaster. And Herb, I think, would be really sad about what's happened to his company. But I literally called it out in the book because there was this math, and I was like, oh, if you go this way,
right,
you can preserve your advantage forever, because I've got a couple of examples of companies that have done that. And then if you go this way, you'll make a lot of money for the next 2 years, and then eventually it'll erode.
Yeah, but it's about incentives. I mean, if you're in management position, I think some executives might say, well, we'll take the sure thing.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll make short-term decision-making versus like, oh, let's carry the thing as like a generational company.
Yeah.
And short-term thinking can lead to
short-term thinking can wipe a company even as great as Southwest out. And you can see it in a bunch of other companies too. But it is a mathematically predictable thing. But the good news in the book is that, especially if you have an innovation stack, there is another type of math, which I go into in fairly good detail, that will allow you to preserve that advantage indefinitely.
And I guess, so you've spoken a lot about, staying the course in the face of adversity. I think a lot of people don't even have a starting position. Like, they don't even know what the why is or what they should be doing. And so, there's a tendency to replicate just because you're not sure. Like, what would you say to someone who really is just not sure what they should be doing with their life, or what they, what's a good use of their time?
Oh, you want me to tell you what to do with your life?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's start with the easy question.
Yeah. Look, I would say two things. One is respect the fact that you don't control what you care about. That is something, you will care about certain things, you will not care about other things. Generally, you should work on things you care about. And that's hard to do because there are a lot of paths that are well paved and, trodden down by the other cattle that are easy to follow. That might not be your path. It might. If it is, you're great.
Right.
If it isn't, you need to recognize it. So that's the one thing is if you can pick a path that is somehow important to you. And my only advice on that is it's probably not money or fame. Like, I've never seen those motivate
If
well.
that's your end motivation, it's a tricky motivation. It doesn't usually end well.
It doesn't, they're not strong motivators.
And also, I think it's also, you'll never be satisfied. If you're looking for, you'll never be famous enough. You'll never have enough money. It's almost like empty calories. You just keep eating them.
There is actually a good analogy, but there's some of that. But the second thing I would say is don't worry about anything except a problem that you care about. And if it's something for which there's already a playbook, get the playbook, follow the playbook. Like, if you live in a city and the city doesn't have, a decent microbrewery, and you say, I want a decent microbrewery.
Chances are you can
do that. You can go to a microbrewery conference. Now, I'm not going to call you an innovator.
Right.
I'm going to call you a brewer.
Right.
Which is cool.
Okay, but
you could call yourself an entrepreneur. I don't care if you use that word, but you're not inventing something. But you could argue that the guys who built the first microbreweries, which was 30 years ago, so I'm from St. Louis, where Anheuser-Busch used to kill anybody who tried to brew beer. Mm-hmm. Like, it was, if you
the dominant player saying we're going to stamp this out before it gets too big.
They had laws. They had it was this thing, and I remember the first guy to build a microbrewery in St. Louis. Like, we thought he was nuts. We thought he was going to end up, carved up into pieces.
Right.
And he did it. And now that guy was an innovator because he had to figure out all this stuff, not just how to brew the beer, but how to, get around all these laws and, the liquor license thing. And it was just this weird thing. So it kind of matters when you do it, but pick something you care about. And then it's going to fall into one or two categories. One, something you can copy the solution for, in which case do. If you've picked something that hasn't been done yet. So right now I'm working on a project to make the world's only plastic-free diaper. Been working on it 5 years. It is really, really hard to make a diaper that doesn't use any plastic. Turns out plastic is really good for stuff. And one of the things it's good for is holding pee in. We're 4/5 of the way there, but we've got this problem that we can't solve. Genius level people.
And why do you care about this problem? Because you're talking about it.
I don't know why I care about it. So that's a good question. Like, it's just this thing that always pissed me off. Like, I have a couple of kids, and every time I threw away a diaper,
right,
in my mind, so I know my father was a polymer chemist, and he actually was one of the guys who invented the plastic Coke bottle, right?
Oh, wow.
Like, one of the big scourges of the planet. Now, my father's a wonderful guy. Wow. He died a couple years ago, but like, what Dad did was probably not too cool. I mean, he didn't know it at the time, but like, what I'm trying to do maybe isn't going to be cool in the eyes of my kids, but I'm trying to get plastic out. Dad was trying to get plastic in. Anyway, every time I throw away a diaper, I said to myself, this thing's going to be on the planet for 1,000 years. It's 10 times as durable as the kid that I just changed.
Oh gosh.
Kid's gonna live for 100 years maybe. Diaper's gonna be on the planet for 1,000, and maybe as microplastics for 10,000.
Wow.
And I'm throwing 5 of these away a day. And I don't know why that bothered me. I don't know what, there was something about that.
Some visceral response. This is just
that just got to me. And I was like, oh my God. And then the other thing is, I grew up in an area of town that's got a lot of poverty. And I know people who dehydrate their kids because they can't afford diapers. Diapers are expensive. They're not covered by government assistance. And if you're in that category, like, you don't give the kid a sippy cup when they're thirsty, because you're sitting there, well, I've only got 3 diapers today. And I got to wait until, I mean, you probably aren't.
It's unbelievable that, I wouldn't have.
You're not in that economic
I would not
strata,
have thought about that,
and I'm not there right now, but like, I've got friends who are there.
Right.
And those are my people, and not all my people, but but I care about that. And so I was trying to make this plastic-free diaper, and it's really hard. And it doesn't work. But that's, if you pick a problem that has not been solved before, then you have this really difficult road to walk where you have to build things that might solve the problem. And most of the time you'll build it and they won't work. And then you're stuck with a failure, and you got to get up and go, well, do I quit here or do I try again? And for the last 5 years, we kept trying again, but like, we haven't quit yet, but I'm kind of like, God, if we don't get this.
Yeah. But then at some point, one thing will just happen, and then it just I find that a lot of times with these problems, when it happens all at once almost, where you get to like the next phase of things.
Yes. You can. I mean,
and then a whole host of other problems come around, but it's like it happens in like chunks. It's not linear.
The day when you figure out how to do this thing that didn't ever work before is a great day. Like, I wish you a couple of those days in your life. Like, just a couple of days when you're like, it doesn't work after 100 tries, and then on the 101st try, it works. Boom or no boom or what? Like,
there's some shit.
Yeah.
And then I know you don't have that much time.
Yeah, I gotta run in a minute.
So last question.
Yeah.
How does glass blowing interplay with your entrepreneurship? And, because like, obviously doing something like art is a very different piece of the brain than doing something in the business world. Do those things intersect in your mind? Is it compartmentalized in your mind? Like, how do those things interact, if at all?
They definitely interact. It was not an intentional thing. I didn't sit there and say, I need to use my left brain, therefore I'll be an artist, or use my right brain. I guess right brain would be an artist. Left brain would be computer scientist, economist. I was trained in a lot of math. I'm an engineer by training. I'm an economist by training. My degrees are in those fields. I started blowing glass because I needed money, and I happened to have a physical skill that made things, and I would sell those things. So that's like, I became an artist out of need. But I love working glass. I love the material because it's really difficult to manipulate hot glass. And actually, my other book, well, I've got 3 other books. 2 of them are computer science programming books, which no one will ever read. But I still have in print the probably top selling book on beginning glassblowing. Like, if you study glassblowing, you're going to use my text.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's, it's this thing I've always done, partially because I needed money, and then partially because I wanted to make the stuff. And then also because it's just a different way of interacting, and it's very tactile. So if I have a bad day, like right now, I'm going to go back to the office and I'm going to write some computer code. Okay. And if I'm really successful, at the end of the day, the office will look exactly the same as it did when I came in, except for some, snack wrappers around. But there will be no physical evidence of my work. Now, there'll be some screens that look different, but come on. If I'm in the studio and I have a great day, I come in the next morning and the annealers are full of just amazing physical objects.
Didn't exist.
Likewise, if I have a terrible day or a terrible week or a terrible month, like there's sometimes I've diagnosed myself with my work. Like, I'll just look at my work coming out of the studio and I'll be like, what's wrong with you? Like, just what are you messed up? Like, what's pissing you? Because it's my work just isn't work. It's just not good. And then I'll sit there and go, oh God, what am I stressed out about? I'll find something else. Oh, that's it. You know, I'm upset at this guy and I need to go have a talk with it. And then all of a sudden my work will improve because you get this physical, reward, or in some cases penalty. So I love glass because it's my passion of creation. Like, I just love making this stuff, and it's really difficult, and that's fun. And then when I do it well, I've got this proof that I did it well. Like, there's this physical object. And to this day, I've got one piece that I made when I was a beginner. I was like a year and a half into it, and I've never been able to replicate it. I've tried probably 100 times to get that same level.
Where is that piece?
It's sitting in my office in St. Louis. It's on the shelf. This guy came in and said, hey, can you make this thing? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. Nailed it on the first try. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll do it again. I have been trying since 1987 to replicate that damn thing. I can't do it.
It's probably it's just the moment. It's like if you're performing a piece,
yeah,
or you're giving a speech.
There's that one take, you get it and you nail it. And I've never been able to. So glass keeps me interested.
And do you have your self-worth tied into the artistry of glass making, or more than the business aspects? Because I think people generally self-identify with things that they do. Like, if they're a dad, it's like, am I a good dad? If I'm a lawyer, am I a good lawyer? Right? Like, I think a lot of people tie their self-worth into the things that they do. Would you say that you feel that your kind of self-worth is embedded in kind of your artistry? Or
no, my self-worth is 100% tied to book sales. No, look, if you're gonna put yourself, and I know not to do this, and I'm only half joking, because my book launched the day the pandemic shut down everything, and it shut down publishing, and my book had this big, it was supposed to be this big thing, and then it was like, nobody wants to read business. They're all on escapist vampire fiction. I try not to tie my self-worth to too much other stuff. I know I shouldn't, but I kind of do. Like, if I lose a bunch of money, but by making a stupid decision, even though it's probably not material, it really bothers me. And I understand the bias of loss aversion, and I understand the cognitive behavior, biases, and I understand the IKEA effect. I understand all that, but I'm still affected by it. So yeah, I'm pretty messed up.
You're still a person. You're still a person.
Deeply messed up. Yeah.
You're like the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah, God, of course.
Well, just to say, your book, really, and in full seriousness, your book was really, really, really inspiring.
Thank you.
And it to those who have read it, I think people, you could sell 10 million copies of something that people just read because it's in the airport and they see it, and and I've read, trust me, tons of those, which I don't remember what they are, or versus some other ones that you read and you really get into, and you walk away with something. So
awesome.
That's the latter. So thank you very much for coming in.
Sam, thank you.
All right. Well, appreciate it.
Yeah. Want me to sign this thing?
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Grab a pen. Oh, I've got a gold pen. That's pretty.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please stay in touch by visiting our website, thebiggerwhywithsam.com. Thank you.